Since you guys liked my explanation of the full personas, I decided to continue this and turn it into a full-fledged series on my channel. So today, I'll be going over a brief explanation of the personas in the Magician Arcana in Persona 5 Royal. If a certain persona catches your eye, links to the information will be in the description below. Also, feel free to leave any information you have about a certain persona down in the comments below. So now, without further ado, let's start off with Morgana's persona, Zoro, another fictional character that does good through illegal ways. So in order to learn more about Zoro, I read the book, The Mark of Zoro, written by Johnston McCulley and published in 1919. Within the story, Zoro fights to free a family wrongly accused of aiding a criminal. Hell, even within the first chapter of the book, it's stated that Zoro is a friend of the oppressed. So, obviously the choice of this persona for a main cast member is perfect for the message of the game. His design in Persona 5 morphs his black mask into a sombrero, as well as he's wielding his rapier with a giant Z upon his belt buckle. This design really pays homage to the original Highwayman's design. Then upon evolving, Zoro turns into the Roman god Mercurius, or Mercury. A deity to have said guided souls into the underworld, Mercury also serves as a messenger for the pantheon of Roman gods. The reason I believe Mercury was chosen for Morgana specifically was while being a messenger to the gods, he was also the god of communication, trickery, and thieves. It's also important to know that Mercury is the equivalent of the Greek god Hermes. His design in Persona 5 is of this blue, slender creature with red glowing eyes with wings upon his boots to show a further connection between him and Hermes. Finally, for Morgana's final persona, we have Diego. Diego, or should I say Don Diego de la Vega, is the true identity of the masked highwayman Zoro. Throughout the Mark of Zoro, Don Diego is portrayed as a weak and cowardly individual to throw people off the scent that he could even be Zoro. In Persona 5, his design is that of Zoro but with a different color palette. Normally, I wouldn't be a fan of this, but given the fact that Don Diego and Zoro are one and the same, I think it works out. Now with Morgana's personas out of the way, we can continue with the rest of the Magician personas. First up is Pyrojack, also known as Jack-o'-lantern. Legend has it is that an Irish farmer persuaded Lucifer not to send him to hell. Then, when he was rejected at the gates of heaven, he possessed a turnip, or in some variations, a pumpkin, and from there, he wandered to Earth. Upon seeing him, people gave him the name Jack-o'-the-Lantern, or Jack-o'-lantern for short. His design is one of the more recognizable demons in Persona, with a pumpkin head, cape, witch's hat, and iconic lantern. This guy looks like he's straight out of the Halloween decoration aisle on Target. Cat-Chi is a fairy of Celtic origins. Claimed to be inspired by the Scottish wildcat, Cat-Chi can walk upon its hind legs and speak like a human. Its most notable feature is a tuft of fur on its chest shaped like a white star. Cat-Chi is also the inspiration for the fairy tale Puss in Boots. Its design is definitely more in line with Puss in Boots rather than the original fairy design, with it not having its white fur tuft and instead wielding a sword, dressed in a feathered hat and cape, and of course with the fairy tale's iconic boots. While being one of the most iconic demons in the series, Jack Frost is a pretty easy demon to explain. Originating mainly in England, Jack Frost is a personification of winter and cold weather. When people's windows and homes frosted over, it was thought to be the work of Jack Frost. His design for this series is of this little snowman guy, with a blue hood, collar, and boots. Honestly, that's kind of it for him. Nekomata, also known as Baka Neko, is a type of Japanese yokai. Said to have started off as a normal house cat, people believe that if the cat were to grow to a certain size or reach a certain age, that they would turn to a Nekomata. The most common belief is that the supernatural abilities of the Nekomata were held within the cat's tail, leading to the mutilation of many cattails in fear that they would split into two, thus creating a Nekomata. Its design in Persona 5 is, well, more cat girl rather than an actual cat, but really my only complaint for this design is that it only has one tail, as most Nekomata or Baka Neko have two. Anyway, back to European folklore. Sandman is a mysterious figure that is said to have sprinkled magic sand into people's eyes to help them fall asleep. But in return, the sand causes you to get that gross eye mucus when you wake up. But if you didn't go to sleep, it is said that Sandman would have ripped your eyes out. So maybe the eye mucus isn't so bad after all. His Persona 5 design is of this little goblin guy in a red bodysuit carrying a bag of sand. His most notable feature is of his crescent moon-shaped head, most likely symbolizing that he does his work at night. Koronzin is a demon originating and writing within the 16th century. Also known as the Demon of Dispersion, Koronzin is most famous for being summoned by occultist Aleister Crowley in an attempt to gain more wisdom. However, Koronzin instead inflicted great pain and suffering upon Crowley as well as the rest of his disciples. As for his design, it's really disappointing. It's just a recolor of Legion's design, albeit blue instead of red. Queen Mab, or in some cases Queen Miv or Queen Mib, is the Queen of Connacht. I really hope I didn't fuck that one up, but I'm pretty sure I did. One of 4 providences of Ireland. She's also a character within the Ulster Cycle, a body of medieval Irish legends that include such characters such as Cú Chulainn and Scaha, other demons within the series. Queen Mab is most notable for her many lovers and husbands, so much so that she was the inspiration for the Queen Meb speech within William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet's Act 1, Scene 4. Another famous tale including her is the Cattle Raid of Cooley, where she faces off against her enemy Cú Chulainn, and after getting the bull was forced to retreat. Her design within the series is very reminiscent of an 80s comic book villain. She is described as a wolf-haired queen, and I believe the SMT design team took that into consideration when designing her, as well as the fact that she's wearing some sort of medieval armor. But I don't think medieval Ireland had green and blue bodysuits. Ragda is known as the demon queen of Liax within Balinese mythology. She is known to have led an army of witches against the good Barong. Who is this little dog guy right here? I mean, just look at him. He's cute. The struggles between the two forces are used in performances as both a tourist attraction as well as tradition. Her persona design is of this red creature with black unkempt hair, with long sharp fingernails, and with lanterns attached to some sort of demon mask on her lower body. I really love this design, although the original depiction of Ragda is of a naked old woman with unkempt hair, but I think this approach to the design is much better. Remember in the last video where I said to remember the Lesser Key of Solomon, more importantly the Ars Goetia? Well, now I'll be talking about the 30th demon listed within the book, the Great and Powerful Fornius. Known as a great Marquis of Hell, leading a legion of 29 demons, Fornius is depicted as a sea monster, and when summoned, he can make the summoner learn all types of foreign tongue and rhetoric. His design in Megami Tensei is of the stingray fused with a man with 2 sets of eyes, one on the man and one on the stingray, with a crown showing his high status as a Marquis of Hell. Surt, commonly known as Surtur, is a gigantic fire Jotun that rules Muspelheim, the land of fire, said to guard the entrance with his sword Lavatin. It is said during Ragnarok, Surt would battle against the Norse god Frey, and afterwards his flames would engulf the earth. In Persona, Surt is depicted as this large gray figure with red marks across his body. Of course he's wielding Lavatin, but other than that, it's mostly a basic design. Not that it's bad, in fact it's one of my favorite SMT designs in the series. Finally, once you maxed out your social link with Morgana, you unlock the final persona of the Magician Arcana, Futsanashi. Futsanashi, also known as Futsamashi no Okami, is the Japanese god of swords and war. After Izanagi beheaded the fire god Kagatsuchi, drops of blood on Izanagi's sword formed rocks by a heavenly river, from which birthed the god Futsanashi. Futsanashi is well associated with the myth and Japanese legends of sending messengers down upon Earth to demand the inhabitants to submit to their ruling. In the series, Futsanashi is shown as a silvered man with purple hair, with 9 floating swords around him, obviously in reference to the fact that he's the deity of swords. And with that, we finished going over a brief explanation of the Magician personas within Persona 5 Royal. If I missed any important details about any of them, I urge you to tell me in the comments below. If you like Persona and SMT, as well as RPGs in general, feel free to subscribe to help out the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.